think Mr Farage needs to bring his troops into line. Mr Farage now.
Yes, thank you. I think they're slightly over-enthusiastic. Well, it wasn't supposed to be like this, was it? Because Mr Cameron's renegotiation began with really big intentions. Treaty change. He was going to question blue cards going up already. This is going to be fun. He was going to control the free movement of people. He was going to achieve a fundamental change, not just in Britain's relationship with the European Union, but reform the EU itself. And what we got was a letter from Mr Tusk, in which there's no treaty change, no powers returned to the United Kingdom, and no control over our borders at all. In fact, it was hardly worth the wait. It's really rather pathetic. But there is, of course, one more chance for the Prime Minister, because he goes to the European Summit in a couple of weeks' time, and like Oliver Twist, he will parade in front of the other leaders and say, please, can we have some more concessions? I find it rather humiliating that a British Prime Minister has to do this, but I'm certain of one thing: he won't get another thing. Because just look at the substance of this. We have an emergency brake on migrant benefits. Wow! It was supposed to be a total ban on migrant benefits for up to 4 years. So it is hardly an emergency brake, it's more of a handbrake turn. And the Prime Minister is saying we've got a red card. Isn't that wonderful? Well, what that means is, if a majority of parliaments in the European Union can say to Mr Juncker they don't want one of his directives, is that a cause for celebration? I mean, if 15 parliaments couldn't stop a piece of law, we'd be living in a communist dictatorship. And what I've gone through here are the good bits. But the most bizarre thing is Mr Cameron said with this deal, he would now vote for Britain to join the European Union. So let's have a little think about that. If the question in June was should we join the European Union, we'd have to tell the British people you must surrender the control and sovereignty of your parliament and have 75% of your laws made somewhere else. Your Supreme Court will not be supreme. You will be overruled by a court in Luxembourg made up of people who aren't even judges. You will have to give up your fishing grounds, including, in some places, 200 miles of the North Sea, and you must cut your links with the Commonwealth and the wider world because you're no longer fit to negotiate your own global trade deals. Oh, and by the way, for all of this, you'll be paying £55 million a day as a membership fee. Would the British people vote for that? Not a snowball's chance in Hades. And all we have to do is recognise that whilst the politicians and the big banks and the big businesses will in this referendum defend their own vested self-interests, it's people power that will win this referendum. And after we've won this referendum, I hope in many other countries in Europe too.
Yeah.
Herr Farage, Sie haben das
Mr. Farage. My colleague Scott Cato has a question for you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wanted to have the opportunity to say that as a British member here, I'm embarrassed and ashamed by the rude and disrespectful behaviour by the UKIP members here. And I would like to ask Mr Farage if during the forthcoming campaign he will do anything to control the behaviour of his members.
Warten Sie mal einen Moment.
One moment, please. Now, one of the basic rules of democracy is that you listen before responding. So, please, listen to what the individual has to say before commenting.
More seconds. I want to say that I'm embarrassed and ashamed by the behaviour of UKIP members here today and their disrespect for other members, which ironically I find to be extremely un-British. I would like to ask Mr Farage whether he is going to attempt to control his members and prevent them from this sort of intimidation, both inside the chamber and more widely on social media during this campaign.
I don't know whether you have a television in your house or not, but if you do, you might have watched Prime Minister's Questions, and you might have seen that actually in elected assemblies all over the world there is vigorous, lively debate, and there's sometimes even humour too. How about that? The most vociferous members I've known in this Parliament since I've been here are our President, when he led the Socialist Group for many years, and indeed Mr Verhofstadt, who leads the Liberal Group, who very often have shouted or mocked things that I've said, and frankly, as an elected representative, I'm big enough and ugly enough to take it, and so should you be.